Welcome to General Mathematics class. Our lesson for today is domain and range of exponential function. To start with, let us have a quick recall. When we say domain of a function, it is the set of all allowable values of x, commonly known as the independent variable of possible inputs of the function. It is a range of a function if the set of output values commonly known as the independent variable when all values in the domain are evaluated into the function. So let us find the domain and range of the following. So number 1, y is equal to 2x plus 3. In this type, it is a linear function. Any real number can be substituted to x to get an output. Therefore, the domain and range are all real numbers. So you can express your answer in set notation or in interval notation. So we have, in its set notation under domain, the domain is x such that x are all real numbers. In interval notation, this is represented by negative infinity up to positive infinity. And for its range, since any value can be, so y such that y are all real numbers, and its interval notation is from negative infinity up to positive infinity. Number 2, y is equal to x squared plus 2. In a linear function, in this given, this is a quadratic function. Like the linear function, any real number can be substituted to x to get an output. So you can also learn that the graph of a quadratic function is a parabola that opens upward or downward. So we have this parabola and another that opens upward and a parabola that opens downward. Therefore, it has a minimum or maximum point called the vertex of the parabola. When the parabola opens upward, the minimum point is this one. While if it is a parabola that opens downward, we have the maximum point. This is the highest point of the given parabola if the parabola opens upward. So therefore, since we have this kind of graph under quadratic function, we have its domain as x such that x are elements of real numbers, and in interval notation, we have negative 8 up to positive infinity, negative infinity up to positive infinity, and for the range, we have, since the given is x squared plus 2, we have y such that y are elements of y is greater than or equal to 2, or from 2 to positive infinity. So in this kind of parabola, this is a parabola that opens upwards, and its vertex is at 0, positive 2. So from there, okay. So the lowest point is positive 2, or the minimum point is positive 2. So it goes upward. So our range is from positive 2 up to positive infinity. Example number 3. This example is a rational function. Since it is a rational function, the domain of a rational function is restricted at the value of its denominator. So, the denominator of a rational function should not be equal to 0 for the value of the function to exist. So this one should not be equal to 0. In this case, the denominator is x plus 3. And when x is equal to negative 3, you will get a value of 0. Therefore, the domain of the function is all real numbers except negative 3. For us to get the restricted value of x, so we just have to get the denominator x plus 3 and take note the denominator should not be equal to 0. Solving x is not equal to negative 3. So, as we said, the domain are elements of real numbers except negative 3. So, in short, in interval notation, it's from negative infinity up to negative 3, union to negative 3 up to positive infinity. In this case, because the function y is equal to 2 over x plus 3 will never be 0, this cannot be equal to 0, you need to exclude 0 from the range. This means that the range is all real numbers except 0. So, the range will be y such that y are elements of real numbers and y is not equal to 0. So, in interval notation, it's negative infinity up to 0, union to 0 up to positive infinity. Example number 4 is a radical function, also known as square root function. The domain of a radical function is any x value for which the radicand, or the value inside the radical symbol, is not negative. If the radicand has a negative value, the roots or the solutions are imaginary roots or no real roots. Thus, it is not allowed in the domain of the function to have a negative value inside the radical sign. Since inside the radical symbol is x plus 5, the domain of the function is the set of all possible values which are greater than 5 or equal to negative 5. We will just have to get or to equate x plus 5 into 0 so that we may be able to get the value or the restricted value of x. So, x is equal to negative 5. When it is negative 5, this will be 0. Negative 5 plus 5 is 0. The square root of 0 is still 0. So, this is still allowed. So, therefore, the domain here are all real numbers starting from negative 5. So, from negative 5 up to positive infinity. We do not accept values of x less than negative 5. Because when it is less than to negative 5, like negative 6, this will give into negative 1, which gives into an imaginary number. That's why the domain or the values of x will be from negative 5 only up to positive infinity. While its range, all values can be, so it's from negative infinity up to positive infinity. So those are just the quick review of about the domain and range of a given function. Let us have this graph, this given. Can you show me the way? Complete the table of values of the exponential function, then draw its graph in the given coordinate plane. The given is f of x is equal to 3 raised to x. Given that x is negative 3, what is f of x? So if that is raised to negative 3, this means that f of x or f of negative 3 is equal to 3 raised to negative 3. And this gives us 1 over 3 raised to 3, and this is 1 over 27. So, 1 over 27, this will give us 1 over 9. Will give us 1 over 3. If 3 raised to 0 is 1, 3 raised to 1 is 3, 3 raised to 2 is 9, and 3 raised to 3 is 27. So, yan. We just apply the given values of x to the given function. Now, let us graph. Negative 3 is here, and 1 over 27 is just here. 1 over 27. Negative 2 is 1 over 9. So, a bit upper. Negative 1 is negative 1/3. And then 0 is 1. 1, 3. Ayun siya. 2, 9. Hindi natin 9 yan. And the other 3, 3, what's that? 3 is 27. Kunyari dyan. So, when we connect all the points, as you can see, the graph is increasing. So, how will you describe the graph? It's increasing. In which quadrants do the graph occupies? So, at the first quadrant. Nasa first quadrant naman talaga siya because as it extends and continues going upward, it will just widens and take the x values. What are the possible values of x? Okay. So, if I will have here 4, it's 27 times 3, it will be 81. And 5, 243, and so on. Here, pag negative 3, a negative 4, 1 over 81, pag 5, 1 over 243, and so on. So, what are the possible values of x? So, ang possible values ng x, pwede tayong from negative infinity to positive infinity. Describe the range of the possible values. Taking a look at the given graph, as the value of x increases, the value of y also increases. And as the value of x decreases, the value of y also decreases. Increasing, if x increases, y also increases. Same with if x decreases, y also decreases. What do you think now is the range of the function? Now, as we move this graph going to the left, and if I have negative 5, negative 6, negative 7, in this given graph, there is no value of x that will give the given graph a value of y. So, the value of the range here will just be go along with the x-axis, but it will never have the chance to have y is equal to 0. Hindi siya kailanman mag-overlap. This will just go along with the x-axis. So the range from there, from here going upward, increasing, will be y is greater than 0. Or yung set notation natin, y such that y are elements of real number and y is greater than 0. What other observations can you give? Other observations that we have is that the given graph increases, and this is also what we call an exponential, a graph of exponential growth. So, that's somehow how we interpret the given graph and giving the domain and the range. The domain and the range, again, is the set. The domain of a function is the set of input values that are used for the independent variable. While the range of a function is the set of values for the dependent variable. This should be for dependent. X are independent, y is dependent to the value of the x. So whatever we have for the x value, substituting it to the equation, that's the time that we will obtain the y values. So let's have this example. Find the domain and range of the function y is equal to 3 raised to x plus 2. With that, The function is defined for all real numbers. So the domain of the function is the set of real numbers. As it extends to approach positive infinity, the value of the function also extends up to positive infinity. Meaning, yung y values to. As it extends to approach negative infinity, the function approaches the x-axis but never touches it. Therefore, the range of the function is the set of real numbers greater than 0. So, kung i-graph natin yan, ganyan ang graph niyan. So, we have this graph for any values of x, it will just go extends upward. And as y decreases, as x decreases, the value of y will just be approaches the x-axis but never touches it. That's why ang range niya is the set of real positive numbers greater than 0. So, dito lang siya magmumula. Asymptotic siya sa x-axis going upward. But then, the domain are all real numbers. The range are real numbers also, but greater than 0. And the interval notation is from negative infinity to positive infinity, and the range is 0 to positive infinity. Next, find the domain and range of the given function. Y is equal to 1/4 raised to 2x. Take note that the value of b is less than 1 but greater than 0. So in this case, the function is defined for all real numbers. So the domain of the function is the set of real numbers. So domain yun. Kaya ko binigay ito, this means that the graph of this given function is decreasing. Kasi b is less than 1 but greater than 0. As it extends to approach positive infinity, ito, as x extends to positive infinity, the value of the function tends to approach 0 and the graph approaches the x-axis but never touches it. Andyan lang siya, lilinya lang yan. So ito, to negative infinity ito, x to negative infinity, ito x to positive infinity. As it approaches to positive infinity, the value of y will just approaches the x-axis but never touches it. So that's why as x tends to approach the negative infinity, ito yon. The function also tends to negative infinity. Therefore, to positive infinity. Therefore, this should be to positive infinity. The range of the given function is the set of real numbers greater than 0. So, ang domain natin are elements of real numbers from negative infinity to positive infinity. The range are real numbers also, but y is greater than 0. So, meaning 0 to positive infinity. Domain and range of exponential functions. Let f of x is equal to a times b raised to p of x plus h be an exponential function where p of x is linear. Then, the domain of the function is real number. Pag ganyan daw ang equation. But then, the range of the function will be h up to positive infinity if the value of a is greater than 0. And the range is negative infinity to h if the value of a is less than 0. In case of exponential function where p of x is linear, in which case b raised to p of x will always be defined for any x value, thus the domain of the exponential function is the set of real numbers of R. For the range, note that b raised to p of x is greater than 0 for any values of x. Hence, the range of an exponential function will depend on a and h. So let's have example number 3. Ito yung kaninang ginawa na rin natin. Green up na rin natin. Ang graph nito ay increasing. So, ganyan siya. As x extends to negative infinity, the y value will just approach the x-axis. And then, the domain of the function is the set of all real numbers. Kasi, mag-extend lang yan going to positive infinity and extend to negative infinity. While, it means that any value of x from the set of real numbers can be substituted to variable x. Note that any power of 3 is always positive. Hence, the range is from 0 to positive infinity. So, dahil lahat naman, any power of 3 is always positive, so there is no point that the given value of y will go intersect the 0 or go to the negative value of y. So, it will just approach the x-axis but never touches it. So, the lowest value of y is 0. So, the range is all real numbers and y is greater than 0. So, in interval notation, 0 up to positive infinity. Number 4. Let f of x is equal to 4 raised to x plus 1 minus 2. And let us find the domain and range. With this kind of given, we'll be using the property of the exponential function that f of x is equal to a times b raised to p of x plus h. B an exponential function where p of x is linear. With this, if we have this kind of given function, exponential function, we have the domain as elements or any real numbers, and for its range will depend on the value of a. It says here that if a is greater than 0, then the value of the range will be from h to positive infinity. And for the value, if the value of a is less than 0, the range will be from negative infinity up to h. In this given, p of x is x plus 1, and this is linear. With this, identifying the value of a here is 1, and a is greater than 0. Our h is negative 2. So from this given, we can now identify, since we know already the domain are elements of real numbers, while the range, since this is greater than 0, will take this one. So this is y such that y are elements of real number and y is greater than negative 2. In interval notation, this is negative 2 to positive infinity. In this case, sa domain, ang interval notation nito ay negative infinity to positive infinity. So, number 5. Again, let us identify the p of x. P of x is equal to x minus 1, and it is linear. After that, if this is linear, therefore we can say that domain are elements of real number. For our range, let us identify first the value of a. Ang a dito is negative 1. And then, a is less than 0. Our h is positive 3. So, ang range natin in set notation will have y is such that y are elements of real number and y is less than 3. Ito kasi yung sinusunod. And then for our interval notation, it's from negative infinity to positive infinity. And here, since it's from positive 3, it's from positive 3 to negative infinity. Kasi it's going to the left. So, it's negative infinity. Okay, so we have the activity. You can pause the given video so that you can answer it first and then later on, i-play nyo para makita nyo yung mga tamang sagot. Okay, let's start. So, letter A is f of x is equal to 5 raised to x. We will be answering the guide questions to complete the table of domain and range of the following questions. Is f of x equals 5 raised to x defined at any value of x? The answer here is yes. Any value of x can be. What is the minimum value of f of x? Now, looking into consideration of what we have learned that the minimum value of x is, or the minimum value of y, since f of x ito, is the value of h. Since wala naman siyang kasunod dito, ibig sabihin, plus 0 yan. With that, that means that the minimum value of y is 0. Can you determine the maximum value of f of x? Yes. So, it will just follow the given, as it approaches the x-axis, it moves towards to negative, to positive infinity. So, if we will write the set notation for the domain, this will be x such that x are elements of real numbers, while in its interval notation, we have negative infinity to positive infinity. For the range, we'll have y sub that y are elements of real numbers and y is greater than 0. For the set notation, interval notation, we have from 0 to positive infinity. Here, f of x is equal to 1 over 5 raised to 3x. Is f of x raised equals 1 to 1 over 5 raised to 3x defined as any values of x? Yes. What is the minimum value of f of x? 0 ulit. And then, can you determine the maximum value? It is up to positive infinity. Since it's less than 1 but greater than 0, the graph of this is decreasing. So the minimum value of y is 0 and the maximum value of y or f of x is positive infinity. So therefore, the domain are x such that x are elements of real numbers and it's from negative infinity to positive infinity. While for the range, it is y such that y are elements of real numbers and y is greater than 0. So, it is from 0 to positive infinity. And that's it. We also have number 3. Here, let's just identify first the p of x. The p of x is x. Is it linear? Yes. Is a greater than 0 or a is less than 0? In this case, the a here is 1/3. So, it is greater than 0. When it is greater than 0, let us identify the value of h. H is 3. So, from there, since it's linear, we can say that the domain are all elements of real numbers. It's from negative infinity to positive infinity. While for the range, it's y such that y are elements of real number and y is greater than. So, ito na yung gamit ng h. 3. So, it's from 3 to positive infinity. Here, we'll have p of x is 2x minus 3. This is linear, of course. Ang a natin dito ay negative 1. So, this is less than 0. Our h is 1. Using that, let us now give the domain x such that x are real numbers from negative infinity to positive infinity. And for the range, it's y such that y are elements of real number such that y is greater than 1. Less than, I should say. So this should be less than. So y is less than 1 because we have less than 0 here. Yan yung batayan mo. So, it's from positive 1 to negative infinity. Ganyan. For this given, we have h of x is equal to 2 times 3 raised to 3x minus 1 plus 2. Let us identify first the p of x. P of x is 3x minus 1. Is this linear? It's a yes. Is the value of a greater than 0 or a is less than 0? As you can see, a here is 2. So a is greater than 0. H is positive 2. From that, we can say that x such that x are elements of the real number for domain, and it's from negative infinity to positive infinity. For the range, we'll have, using the h, y such that y are elements of real number, and y is greater than 2. Kasi greater than 0 ka. And with that, it's from positive 2 to positive infinity. Ganyan lang siya kadali. Sana tama yung mga answer. For our activity number 1, ito yung activity number 1 natin na ipopost ninyo ang answer sa ating G class. And with that, this ends our discussion for domain and range. Huwag kalimutang mag-subscribe para lagi kayong updated sa mga videos ko sa bawat topic natin. You may comment your name and sections at the comment box and hit like. See you on my next video.